What would you do if a homeless stranger returned your wallet? Welcome to our storytelling channel, where every tale is a journey worth taking. If this story touched your heart, let us know where you're watching from. We love hearing from people all around the world. Drop a comment below and share your thoughts. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you won't miss tomorrow's special story. It's one you won't want to miss. See you in the next chapter. It was just past 6 p.m. in downtown Chicago, and the sidewalks glistened beneath a light drizzle that refused to let up. The streetlights had already begun to glow, casting long golden reflections on the wet pavement. Daniel Prescott, a 42-year-old financial executive, hurried down Monroe Street with his coat collar turned up and his briefcase held tightly under his arm. The day had drained him. Back-to-back meetings, urgent calls, decisions that carried weight. But all he could think about now was getting home, taking a long, hot shower, and forgetting the noise of the world for a while. As he crossed a busy intersection, his gaze swept lazily across the usual chaos of early evening. The blur of headlights, the honking horns, street vendors closing up for the night, and commuters rushing home. It was the portrait of a typical city evening, loud, restless, familiar. But then something didn't feel right. A sudden unease struck him. Instinctively, Daniel reached for the inner pocket of his blazer where he always kept his wallet. Nothing. He froze mid-step, quickly checking his coat, his trousers, every familiar compartment. It was gone. His breath caught. The last time he remembered using it was at the coffee shop 3 blocks back. He had paid cash. Maybe, just maybe, he dropped it while reaching for the bills. Muttering under his breath, Daniel turned around and started retracing his steps, anxiety mounting with every block. In his mind, he had already accepted the loss. The credit cards, the ID, the few $100s in cash, all gone. And in a city this size, with strangers constantly brushing shoulders, what were the chances someone would pick it up and choose honesty? Then, just as he reached the corner near a newsstand, he saw someone running toward him. A woman, her clothes, ragged, soaked from the rain, her hair matted and tangled, was waving something in her hand. Daniel's body tensed. His first thought wasn't hope. It was fear. Was this a setup? Was she a distraction for something worse? But when she got closer, she stopped, slightly out of breath, and extended her hand. In it was a familiar black leather wallet. "You dropped this at the cafe," she said between gasps, her voice low but sincere. "I saw it fall, and I ran after you." For a moment, Daniel couldn't find the words. He took the wallet, opened it, and found everything untouched. The cash, the cards, still there. He looked back at the woman standing in front of him, soaked, shivering, but calm. Clearly someone without a home, without comfort, yet she had chased him down just to return what wasn't hers. "Thank you," he finally said, his voice thick with emotion. "You could have kept it, no one would have known." She gave a tired shrug. "It's not mine, is it?" she replied. "I just did what was right." And in that moment, Daniel saw more humanity in a soaked stranger than he had in 1,000 boardrooms. Daniel stood still for a moment, holding the wallet in his hands, unsure of what to say. The woman had already begun to turn away, as if expecting nothing in return. Maybe she was used to it, doing the right thing without thanks, walking back into the shadows unnoticed. But something in Daniel stirred. Maybe it was the exhaustion from the day, or the way her eyes carried stories heavier than words, or maybe, just maybe, it was guilt. The guilt of how easily he'd misjudged her. He cleared his throat. "Wait," he called out, stepping forward. "Can I at least offer you something warm to eat? Or a place to dry off?" She hesitated, turning slowly, uncertain. Rain clung to her like an unwanted second skin, and her thin jacket did little to fight off the chill. "I don't want your money," she said quietly, her voice defensive but not angry. More like someone used to rejection disguised as charity. "It's not about money," Daniel replied, his tone softening. "You didn't have to return this, but you did. And I'd like to return the favor, just some soup, a dry towel, maybe a hot shower. No strings attached." There was a pause, heavy with tension. Then, after a long moment, she gave the smallest nod. "Okay," she murmured, more to herself than to him. They walked in silence through the misty Chicago streets, Daniel guiding her just a few blocks to his townhouse tucked between two brownstones. As they approached the steps, she slowed down, her steps growing uncertain. The polished walkway, the soft golden lights by the door, the trimmed bushes, it all looked like another world. She stopped at the gate. "I don't belong here," she whispered, more of a confession than a protest. Daniel looked back at her. "You returned something valuable to me. That tells me exactly who you are. You belong here just as much as anyone who does the right thing." Inside, the warmth hit instantly. The house smelled faintly of cedar and old books, and a soft jazz tune played low in the background. A maid appeared silently at the hallway entrance, eyes flickering with polite curiosity. "Could you show our guest to the guest bathroom?" Daniel asked gently. Then turning to the woman, he added, "There are clean towels and some dry clothes. Take your time." She looked at him, uncertain but grateful. "I'm Rachel," she finally said, almost apologetically. "Nice to meet you, Rachel," he said with a faint smile. "I'm Daniel." As she disappeared down the hallway, Daniel stood alone in the foyer, a strange sense of familiarity tugging at his memory. Rachel. That name stirred something. A face from the past. A friend, maybe? He shook the thought away for now, but the feeling lingered, like a ghost brushing past his shoulder. Something about this moment felt destined. He just didn't know why. Not yet. Rachel followed the maid slowly, her footsteps quiet on the hardwood floor. Everything around her felt surreal. Polished wood, soft lighting, the distant sound of jazz echoing through the hall. The guest bathroom was just past the staircase, but to her, it might as well have been another planet. The maid opened the door, gave a gentle nod, and left her alone. Rachel stepped inside and froze. The room was bigger than any shelter she'd stayed in over the past year. Marble countertops glistened beneath warm lights, and a deep soaking tub sat beneath a frosted window. A stack of freshly folded towels sat on the counter, next to a pair of soft gray sweatpants and a clean hoodie. She touched the fabric gently, almost afraid it would vanish. She turned the faucet and watched steam begin to rise. Slowly, she peeled off the rain-soaked layers, trying not to look in the mirror. But her reflection caught her anyway. Thin, pale, eyes hollow with stories she hadn't spoken in years. She turned away quickly, stepped into the hot stream, and let the water crash over her like a wave. At first, the warmth stung. Her skin had grown so used to the cold, to harsh showers and rushed scrubs in public bathrooms. But then something inside her cracked open. The water wasn't just washing off the dirt, it was peeling back time. Memories began flooding in. Once she had been someone else entirely. She saw her mother, beaming with pride at the small boutique Rachel had opened in her mid-20s. It wasn't much, a 700-square-foot shop filled with handmade clothes and thrifted treasures, but it was hers. Her mother would sit by the window sipping tea and praising every customer like they were royalty. But then came the sickness, the hospital bills. The night she passed away, Rachel felt the air change. Everything got heavier. She tried to hold the business together, but grief doesn't keep books balanced. And then, James. She had trusted him, her partner in life and work. He had helped her handle the finances, but when things got tight, he disappeared, leaving her with empty accounts and a mountain of debt. With no savings, no family, and nowhere to turn, Rachel slowly fell. At first, she just needed to numb the pain. A drink here, a pill there. Something to quiet the storm inside her. But addiction doesn't ask for permission. It just takes. Before, she knew it. The boutique was gone and she was sleeping behind it, curled up with a duffel bag and silence. Back in the shower, Rachel leaned her forehead against the tile, her tears mixing with the water. How had she ended up here, inside the home of a stranger who didn't treat her like a stray? And then she remembered his name again. Daniel. Something about him felt oddly familiar, like a song she used to know by heart but hadn't heard in years. As she stepped out of the shower and wrapped herself in the towel, a single thought echoed in her mind. What if this wasn't coincidence at all? Wrapped in the soft hoodie Daniel had left for her, Rachel stepped quietly back into the hallway. The scent of lavender from the freshly laundered fabric clung to her skin, mixing with the lingering steam from the bath. She felt cleaner than she had in months, maybe years. But more than that, she felt exposed, like the walls she'd built to protect herself had just melted with the water. As she made her way toward the living room, something inside her buzzed, with nervous energy. Daniel was there, sitting on the edge of the couch, a cup of tea in his hands. When he looked up and saw her, the cup paused mid-air. His eyes widened, not in judgment, but recognition. "Rachel?" he said softly, like the word carried years of meaning. She hesitated, then nodded. "I thought so," he continued, standing. "I didn't want to say anything earlier. I wasn't sure, but now, I remember you. High school, sophomore year. You sat behind me in Mr. Bennett's class." Rachel's breath caught. Her mind flipped through time like pages in a photo album. She saw a skinny boy with oversized glasses and a quiet smile. Daniel Prescott. He had been kind, even then. The kid who let her copy his notes, who laughed at her terrible jokes. "Oh my God," she whispered, tears rising again. "I didn't recognize you." They stood in silence, the weight of a decade and a half filling the space between them, and then slowly, she sat beside him. The air felt heavy with memory. "What happened to you?" he asked gently. She looked down at her hands, clean now, but still trembling. "Life," she said. "It happened fast. One thing fell apart, then another. My mom died. I lost the shop. I made some terrible choices just trying to make the pain stop." Daniel didn't flinch. He didn't look away. He just listened, really listened. In the quiet, she told him everything. The addiction, the nights spent on park benches, the shame of relying on strangers and shelters, of feeling invisible in a city she once called home. "I tried to claw my way back so many times," she said, voice cracking. "But every time I got close, something would knock me down again. Eventually, I stopped trying." Daniel reached for her hand, holding it with quiet steadiness. "You're trying now," he said. "That counts. That matters." Rachel looked at him, really looked. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. "You don't owe me anything." He smiled, soft, kind. "Maybe not, but I remember you. The girl who stood up for others, even when it cost her. I remember who you were before the world hit you this hard. And I believe you can find her again." That night, Daniel made the call. He arranged for Rachel to check into a rehabilitation center just outside the city. Quiet, private, safe. She didn't argue. She didn't cry. She just nodded. For the first time in years, someone had seen her not as broken, but as someone worth rebuilding. And that changed everything. If this story moved you, even just a little, we'd love to hear your thoughts. What part of Rachel's journey spoke to you the most? Was it her quiet act of honesty on the street? Her raw vulnerability in the shower? Or the way she slowly rebuilt her life, one small step at a time? Leave a comment below and tell us where you're watching from and how this story made you feel. Your words matter more than you know. Not just to us, but to others who may be scrolling through, searching for a reminder that hope still exists. Have you ever had someone show up for you when you were at your lowest? Or maybe you were the one who extended a hand to someone else. Stories like this aren't just fiction, they echo real life. So let's share, let's connect, and let's remind each other that second chances are real, and kindness can be powerful enough to change the course of a life. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. We release new, powerful stories every week, and who knows, tomorrow's story might be exactly the one you need to hear. We'll see you in the next chapter.